بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين.
Interpretation of the Holy Quran.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. With the help of Allah, we have started to have a concise interpretation of Quran. We reached to chapter Baqara, the longest chapter of Quran which is revealed in Medina. It has 286 verses. Please listen to verse 169 and 170.
إنما يأمركم بالسوء والفحشاء وأن تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون وإذا قيل لهم اتبعوا ما أنزل الله قالوا بل نتبع ما ألفينا عليه آباءنا أولو كان آباؤهم لا يعقلون شيئا ولا يهتدون.
He only enjoins you evil and indecency, and that you may speak against Allah what you do not know. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبِعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. And when it is said to them, follow what Allah has revealed, they say, nay, we follow what we found our fathers upon. What and though their fathers had no sense at all, nor did they follow the right way. In previous verse, Allah said, don't follow the footsteps of Shaitan, إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. Surely Shaitan is your open enemy. And in this verse, Allah explained how Shaitan is your open enemy. Allah says, إِنَّمَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالسُّوءِ وَالْفَحْشَاءِ. You should understand that Shaitan is ordering you and enjoins you evil and enjoins you indecency, to commit sin, to do something wrong, something which is not approved in Islam and is not allowed. بالسوء والفحشاء وأن تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون. And you accuse Allah and say something about Allah that He didn't say it. These three deeds that Allah has brought example are something that Shaitan is doing with the people, enjoins people to evil, indecency, and تقولوا على الله ما لا تعلمون, and accuse Allah and say something about Allah that is not correct, is not true. Say that Allah has said something which you know that Allah hasn't done it. All of them are doing by Shaitan. Shaitan has a temptation to people to follow such a wrong steps. There is a beautiful narration in Ruh al-Bayan, in Tafsir al-Quran of Ruh al-Bayan. The narration says, Shaitan has a different steps. First, he tries to tell to the people that there is no reason to worship Allah, to be among the pagans, disbelievers. If a person doesn't believe and he believes in Allah, he becomes one of the believers. After that, shaitan encourages him to commit sin, big sin. If he doesn't listen to the shaitan and still he avoid the big sins, shaitan advises such a person to commit small sins. If a person doesn't listen to shaitan, the narration says, after that, shaitan is coming to the person and says, okay, do something normal. It means stop him from doing some mustahabbat, something which is recommended. He says, don't do that. Do something which is very, very normal. It means mubah. If a person doesn't listen to that, to shaitan, and still tries to do the recommended deeds, after that, shaitan is helping or inviting him to do something that has less reward, less difficult, has a less problem, or is not very difficult. Shaitan does not allow him or advise him not to achieve a lot. So even if he is trying to do something which is recommended, he says, okay, do the small one. For example, shaitan says, there is no reason to help the other people with the money. But if he insists, shaitan says, okay, at least, at most $1, not $10, not $100. All of them are the steps that shaitan are following. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Don't follow the footsteps of shaitan. And these are the footsteps of shaitan. We know that shaitan has a temptation, but shaitan will not bound up the people, will not force, will not take the freedom from the people. Nobody can say, yes, I have committed sin because shaitan has told me, and he means that he did not have free will for himself. No, anything we do, we are the one who decides. Because of that, there is a paradise and hell. Because of that, people are going to regret in Resurrection Day. If we will not be free, there is no regression. Nobody will be regret because he says, I had no any other choices. And Allah will not punish a person who was not free to do something. He was committed sin by force. Allah will not punish such a person. So if there is a punishment, if there is a paradise, if people will regret in the Resurrection Day, all of them are signs that we are free. And of course, those people who listen to shaitan, it is their problem. They are weak people. And because of that, we will read in Quran, in Nahl, chapter Nahl, verse 100, that shaitan has an authority for those people who give respect to the shaitan, for those people who are following and consider shaitan as their leader. Allah says, إِنَّمَا سُلْطَانُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يَتَوَلَّوْنَهُ. His authority, it means authority of shaitan, is only over those who be friend of him. Those who take friend, shaitan as a friend for themselves or leader for themselves. Of course, for these people, shaitan is going to have authority. Anything he says, they are going to accept and obey. Otherwise, there are certain people, the friends of Allah, awliya-illah. Allah says in Quran that shaitan have no authority over these people at all. In chapter Hajr, verse 42, Allah says, Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultan. Allah says to the shaitan that surely as regards my servants, you have no authority over them. Yes, you have authority for those who consider you, it means shaitan, as a leader for themselves, as a friend for themselves, as a boss for themselves, as a manager for themselves. Otherwise, those who are friends of Allah and will obey Allah, shaitan will not have any authority for these people. So we have understood that previous verse said, وَلَا تَتَّبُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, don't follow the footsteps of shaitan. And in this verse, Allah has mentioned some examples that shaitan is going to order to do evil, to have indecency, and to accuse Allah, and something that you know Allah didn't say it, say that Allah has said it. Then in next verse Allah says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ اتَّبَعُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ قَالُوا بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا. For these people who follow shaitan, when it is said to them that follow whatever Allah has revealed to the Prophet and to you, they say, no, never ever. بَلْ نَتَّبِعُ مَا أَلْفَيْنَا عَلَيْهِ آبَاءَنَا. We are going to follow whatever our parents and grandparents they have done or they followed. Whatever they have done, we are going to follow them. And Allah says, أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ. Even if their parents did not have any kind of sense, did not use their intellect, or they were not guided at all, they did not listen to the truth, still these people are saying that we are going to follow our parents or our grandparents. We understand also from this verse that to follow the others without using the intellect and reason is wrong, regardless to the person. Of course, if we follow a person because our intellect will tell us, you do not have such a knowledge, listen to others. Of course, the intellect accepts it. Intellect will confirm it. The conscience will tell us. The knowledge is telling us. This is not a wrong following. We follow the doctor. We follow a mechanic, for example. We follow a carpenter because any of them are professional in his job. And since I'm not professional, anything he says, I'm going to listen. When we say that we should follow a marja, a scholar who knows religion, he studied Islam for 60 years, 50 years, and he worked so hard. Of course, we must follow him, and the intellect will prove it. Otherwise, it's wrong. In this verse, Allah will blame those people who follow their parents, but immediately Allah says, أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا. Even if their parents did not have a sense, did not use their intellect, they were not in a right way, still because they were only their parents, they say we are going to follow them. And when Allah says, أَوَلَوْ كَانَ آبَاؤُهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَهْتَدُونَ, it means they were not guided. They were not guided, it means there were some people who guide them, but they did not accept it. They did not listen. As we understand from narrations, it is necessary for all the time to be somebody to guide people. Some people will follow, will listen, and some people will ignore it. For example, there is a narration from Imam Ali in Nahj al-Balagha that Imam says, بَلَا لا تخلو الأرض من قائم لله ظاهرا أو خائفا. Imam Ali says, definitely the earth all the time should have a person to guide others. قائما لله, it means a person who guides people and invites them toward Allah. ظاهرا أو خائفا, apparently, openly, if there is no problem. If his life will not be in danger, or secretly, خائفا. It means at the same time that he is afraid. He afraid from Allah's enemy, but he should be there to guide people, but secretly. So we have understood that all the time there is a person to guide, but sometimes openly and sometimes secretly. There are a few messages that we can get from these two verses. Inshallah, in next section, I'm going to talk about it. Thank you very much for watching. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.